Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our session on writing back to databases. My name's Neil Canungo, your host, and I'm joined by the other member of our Dr. Spotfire team, Jose Levigere. Jose, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Jose Leviaguirre, Data Science at TIBCO, and today I'm going to be presenting writing back to databases.
Right. Thanks, Jose. So just a quick intro. We have our slogan in Dr. Spotfire. Learning is not driven by answers, but by questions. Let those questions guide you in your learning. And today we will have we have been seeing many questions on how to write back to databases. So we're going to be showing that hot topic today. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube for all the recorded sessions. So it's a TIBCO Spotfire channel. This session is live on the TIBCO Spotfire channel right now, and we'll be there for posterity if you'd like to go back and rewatch this session. We also have a TIBCO Data Science channel. Wanted to mention this. This has been a really great channel for all things Spotfire as well as other TIBCO analytics solutions. It's more broad in the data science realm. We even have a new Dr. Data Science, Athir Alatar, and he's been doing some great sessions. I recommend joining these on the third Wednesdays of each month. He just did a session on time series data approaches, and before that, he did approaches to working with missing data. So if you're looking for more tips for just working with data, doing advanced data science, or even just general data analytics, I recommend subscribing to this channel and following Athir. He's got some great sessions he's been doing. So without further ado, our feature session today is database writeback with Spotfire. We've been getting a lot of questions about this in the community over the past few months, and so thought this would be a great time to have our expert Jose show us a bunch of different tips on how to do this in different formats. So with that, Jose, why don't I hand it over to you?
Yes, thank you, Neil. And feel free to come to ask any questions, post them, and we will be monitoring, trying to answer them live. If not, we will do it offline. So I'm going to demonstrate in this session different ways to write back to from Spotfire. The simplest way is to write back to a text file or Excel file even, and that's going to be done with IronPython. IronPython is going to be driven by text areas and some kind of inputs, and then you submit, and then um, uh, so this is basically the demo that we're going to be doing across all different ways of writing back to database. So we have writing back to database again through IronPython, but we can also write back to database using R data functions or Python data function in that case. It's also interesting to know that you can also write back using information links, and you can do it by editing the SQL or using store procedures. To go a little bit further, we're going to also demonstrate how to write back to Google Sheets and to Google BigQuery, to Google to write back to cloud. So
And
let's
this is
go.
just want to mention as a little more context. This is really useful for creating analytics applications. So getting your dashboards past just a representation of your data, actually interacting with that data, and being able to store that data back in the database and view that iteratively right in your dashboard. So Jose's got he's going to be showing you he's got this rating system where he can just put in a rating, and that's going to be stored in his data source and then visualized back into the dashboard for him.
Yes, for that purpose, I'm going to be simplifying the way. I know this looks a little bit fancy with the rating system right here, but for the rest of the demos, I'm going to using this interface, which basically is the same with a slider and an input control and a comment. And also to give everyone to be on the same page, uh, I am going to go over what is IronPython data functions and information links. So IronPython is very powerful. It's a .NET implementation of Python. So all the APIs and functions and things from .NET can be leveraged through Spotfire APIs. You can even export right back to images, to Excel, many export to PowerPoint, many of those things. And there's an article covering all of these demos right here. And these are, we will be sharing these after the talk. But here you can see all these different ways to write back to databases. So everything I'm going to be covered is going to be here, or even more topics. So with the data functions, they are based they're as powerful as IronPython, but they can be written in R or Python, the programming language, and it's very common for data scientists to use these data functions. But we can leverage the data functions to write back to databases, and the information links are predefined database queries, and they require these drivers, the JDBC, in order to work. So with information links, I hope everyone is familiar with information links. Is the core of Spotfire, and we will going through that as well. So here's a quick demo on how writing back to a text file looks like. So we already did that demo here with the Spotfire text back, write back from Spotfire text. I'm going to show you how I'm going to open the text file that is located right here. Oops. Right here, this is the code. Use few lines of code. I'm setting up the file. I'm setting some parameters from document properties. And then I'm creating a comma separated line. And through a string writer, I'm just passing that file name. I'm setting it to true to append the files. And then I just send that to the text file. Just for a live demo, I'm going to open up the text file right here and submit, and you see the line here popping up. So that's for text writing back. Let's go to the fun part with writing back using writing back to database. So this is again with IronPython, and there are different ways to write back to databases. We can use OLEDB. In this case, I'm using ODBC, and you can write to many different databases using ODBC, such as or everything that any database that uses ODBC, you can do it with this same approach. In this case, I'm using PostgreSQL. So I have the driver right here. I just go to my ODBC, and gonna look like this. And I set up my ODBC connection through the system DSN. It's very important to have the system CSN so the Spotfire can read it. And so as long as we have this name, just copy paste this name and put it in the code right here. So there's no complex security or connection string that you have to put in the ODBC connection. That's why I like ODBC, because all the security is performed by the ODBC dialog in your system. And this dialog is also available in Linux. So all you pass is the name of the system data source and the driver. And for that, you have to import these packages from Spotfire, and you set up your SQL statement and pass the values. Here I'm passing the values as an argument, and then I am formatting by passing easier to read, so I can have my timestamp, comment, and score. It's only 3 lines of code that I am using, and then this is kind of a tricky part. What I'm doing is adding a data table with these database source settings. So this is a temporary table that every time that is refreshed, it's going to execute this connection string, this insert in statement, and it's going to write back to the database. So let me show you what I mean by that by looking at the ODBC connection or this data source. So this data source name is called ODBC table. So the ODBC table is Oh, in this case, I'm writing back and refreshing the table. So let's do a test from Spotfire, ODBC to Postgres. So I click submit, and then, well, my database, I did a previous examples. My database refreshed, and it inserted the the table. So let me show you the ODBC table that I have here. So that's the connection string. So you see the SQL statement in the information of the connection string is this. So every time I refresh this table, it's going to insert the same row. So if I refresh, it should refresh the database, and here is the thing. It's important if I change the settings for this um, uh, to have the cached turn on this ODBC table. Um, yeah, so because it's created using uh, the Python script, you don't see those options. Okay, any questions so far coming through, Neil? Okay, let's.
Yeah, so far, sorry, I just need to add myself to a stream. Just a question from Mohammed on will the session be available after live stream? And yes, I put the link to the YouTube channel in the comments, and this will be available after live stream on YouTube. Also, we wanted to mention to everyone that something we'll cover a little bit later, but Jose has written some great articles on this. And so you can actually copy and paste this code directly. We'll put the article, Jose, actually, yeah, do you want to talk about the article now? This might be a good time to share
Yeah,
that.
sure. So here is the main article. There is um, an article with many examples on how to write back to databases, how to write back to server. So this is different ways to write back. There are posts from from different guys in the community. If you come up with your own solution, feel free to send it to us, and we will put it here. Um, so yeah, all the examples are here. The next one I'm going to cover is writing back to Excel. Here's a little animation on how it's going to work. But yeah, all this information is going to be available, including the video.
Thanks, Jose. Yeah, so we'll put that in the chat for you when I get that link, and uh, that will be available for you, so you don't have to type all this code out. You can easily copy and paste it.
Okay, so writing back is exactly the same as writing back to Postgres, but in this case now we're going to use the wrong picture because it's similar. I just copy paste, but you see that you need here, and I correct that. It's the to write back to Excel is the Microsoft Excel driver. So you go to System DSN, add, search for your Microsoft Excel driver. See, you have all these ways to, as long as you have the driver, you can write back to Access or what have you. I'm using this, and then you set up. In order to configure this thing, you need to select the workbook. It's kind of an old interface, but you go to where the file is, and then make sure you uncheck the read only. It's important to have it right back so you don't get any errors. So let's go for the demonstration. Well, let's go to the code. Right here is the same, very similar format. The only thing I'm changing is the DSN that has to match with my DSN up here. Oh, wrong picture. And perform the proper insert. So Excel has a different way to insert. You have to put this in brackets, and then the name of your sheet here will be your table equivalent, and then your inputs. But you can also query database or update and edit other. I'm just doing the bare bones, very basic example to show you how to insert a record. So once I have that, the same approach, I'm using the ODBC table Excel, a temporary table. Once I refresh, the thing is going to show up on my Excel file. So I have side by side my Excel file here, and then do something like this. I give a rating of 3. I submit it, and you can see right away how the data shows up on the Excel. All right, let's go to the next one.
We actually have a couple questions I'm going to pop in here.
Perfect.
So we had a question from Tusif Ahmad. How much is there a limitation on how much data we can write back?
Limitations, how data we can write back. You can do loops, and you can create a long query statement and then do it. I haven't tested how much is the limit, but I suppose is that the limit is for Excel. It's just the limit, the natural limit of Excel that it can handle, but you can write as much as you want.
Okay. So you're just showing how to write back a value, but if you want to write back multiple rows of data, then you have to loop over it. And
yes, loop over or construct the proper SQL command with comma separated values or comma semicolon, a bunch of insert statement at once, and then execute the query, and the ODBC driver will take care of everything else.
Right. Okay. And then we had a question from Vincent on, from a data administration perspective, what safeguards and data cleaning steps can be added to ensure data quality is added? And similarly, we had another question from Pascal about form validation inside of a PyScript. So I think in terms of Vincent's question here and the safeguarding, the cleaning steps, you could actually add in your IronPython script, you could add some checks there to control what is actually being entered, right?
You can perform some checks. The proper way to do checks is on the database, maybe by doing triggers and making sure that the data coming into the database is going through properly. In this specific example of Excel, this can be useful to export a bunch of data to an Excel file, and then you can specify the file maybe on a network drive through your ODBC properly. But Spotfire, I mean, if you want to talk about more data quality, data validation, I think Spotfire it's more to do data analytics, and writing back works great when performing simple stuff like maybe tagging some rows. There's an interesting article on how to write back an entire column from a table. So you insert a new table, new column on the database, and then you update all those values based on calculation from Spotfire. So that's an interesting article that will be posting it after the video.
We also had a question. This one is, I think, might be a little tricky to do, but maybe you have some better ideas than me. How to implement data level security and who can write back to the database. I'm not sure if, well, in the IronPython, you can refer to the username. So you could do a check on the username and incorporate that in your IronPython script. That might be that's off the top of my head, the way I would think about doing it. I'm not sure if we would do it on the database side as well.
Yes, that would be a separate assessment. But in principle, anyone can write back to the database, because this is basically using service accounts, and that we'll see that when writing back to Google BigQuery or Google Sheets in demo by using a service account. But here the credentials are embedded in the ODBC. You can also embed it in the connection string itself, which is less secure. But you can, I mean, anyone who has the scripting license, they can see those
You can
credentials.
see it, right? So you can embed different credentials right in that IronPython script, but then anyone can open that and see those credentials. So it's not the most secure way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so it's mainly meant for just simple write back using a service account.
Yeah, and then you have to think of the architecture. Maybe you want to write back on a temporary table and then perform a bunch of a process to clean, validate, or what have you into the proper system.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find that code for pulling the username that can be referenced, and maybe when you write back to database, it puts the username next to that in a field so that on your temporary table you can see who wrote what and check that later. So
Exactly. So now let's move on to writing back to databases using information links. And this is pretty cool. So here we are creating an information link from the information designer. If you don't have that license, you won't be able, but that's through the data information designer. And then you create your information link. Then you add a column, a date column, because in this specific example, we are returning only one record. This record is the date. And this is my information link return value. Last time I did this, I inserted a row through information link was by was that timestamp. So I inserted a record and then I return the date of when the record was inserted, just for reference. But the data is in the database. So if I go here and then I'll set up the parameters. So this is step 3, edit the SQL. So I'm going to step 3.1. So in my query, I edit the query. This is my original query, the default query, because I added a column. Then this is the default SQL. But then I modify my SQL. And I do just a simple select current timestamp statement. And then I'm going to click my pre-update. That's step 3.2. And I'm going to do my insertion right there. So pre-update means that it's going to execute the insert and then it's going to execute the query. I can do the opposite. I can first run the query and then do an insert or whatever I want the SQL to happen right here. In this case, I'm going to do it before the query. I'm going to insert to my table a rating, the date time, the name, and the value. And the only two parameters are name and value because I'm taking the current timestamp from the system. So name and value, I put a question mark before each parameter. And when I go back to my parameters, I hit refresh and I hit refresh and I should see these parameters. And then what I do here is, well, let me actually go to the information designer, my writeback with the regular. Yeah, these are my two parameters, and then what I do is map. I bring my information link from the library, writeback. I use this one. I bring it up, and then it's going to ask me for some parameters. Let's go ahead. Do it. I put the parameter there, the value, and something else, and then I can configure the on-demand parameters by defining the inputs. I already have that configured, so I just going to cancel, but I can always change the parameters from my writeback on-demand settings, and I have mapped to my document properties. So I just go here, select the document property that I set up, and that's going to be passing the parameters to my information link and perform the update every time that a rating write back information link is refreshed. So if I do that, it's going to execute. So my code looks like this. When I click that submit button, my code is going to look just like this. I'm just going to refresh the data table right back. So there's another way. Well, this is going to be kind of tricky if you want to refresh this and then see the data coming through. So that's a little bit more complex because I have to, if you don't need to see the data, that's fine, then you just refresh. But if you want to see the data after you refresh, you might want to refresh the two tables at the same time by adding one more line here, just updating the main database or the main data table and click refresh. But because it happens asynchronously, then it might refresh this and then they do the update. So there's a very cool script here. I'm not going to go through that, but it's going to basically refresh one table and then the other. So there is performing the update one, and then it's going to trigger another script that refreshes the table that we want last. So here's the demo, and then submit. Then this one refreshes automatically, and this one refreshes right after. It should be right here. Hello information link. One important thing to mention is that the information link that we set up right here, uncheck the load automatically, because if this is linked to a document property and I change that document property, this is going to be executing over and over. So let's say if I do this and that, then this is going to be refreshing over and over in certain records that we don't want. So this icon is to refresh because it detected that something changed in the information link.
So you don't want, yeah. So you don't want to have that load automatically in the dialog. You instead want to do it with the data table refresh in your script, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's why you want to do it in the script. Also, allowing caching might be useful or not, because if I allow caching and I submit this exactly the same information, it won't go through. It won't go through because those parameters didn't change. Unless I change my datetime to pick up the datetime from the system, and if it detects a different system, you say, okay, it's a new record. Let's go ahead. Well, but that's something I have to think about.
We had couple of questions. We're going to take a break. We're having a lot of questions coming through. So Dustin was asking, is there a way to sequence the exhibit table that needs to be updated? I think this is something we were talking about yesterday. You want to take that, Jose?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. And there are different ways that I'm going to go through to sequence once I submit, refresh one table, and then I want to do the other one. Uh, so in this case, I am refreshing the information link that performs the insert, and right after that, I'm refreshing the table that brings all the data from the from the data source.
And you can just put those data table refresh commands in a certain sequence to refresh those in that sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we had this was a Kevin Britton from LinkedIn was asking, assume an Excel file. This is going back to before the information link when we were doing the Excel example. It can't already be opened and locked for editing. So does Spotfire generate any type of warning message if the Excel file is inaccessible? Or?
Yes. It will give you some kind of warnings or errors, like in this notification area. If there's something wrong with your script or on the Excel that is locked or something, you just click on that and it will give you the warning or error. And then you can go further to the details by clicking, and then you'll see the details of what's going on there.
Right. And I'll take one more question, and then we'll keep on moving through the examples. This was back with the ODBC. So does this work on? Does the writeback work on scheduled dashboards? So I think it does work, but it'll work in your session, right? And then you would need the cache to update before that's represented for other sessions, right?
That's a great question. And yeah, there are workarounds for that, because remember that the information link has to be refreshed in order to trigger that insert SQL. But then if it's cached on the scheduled dashboard, um, yes, I don't know how that
You
will
just
work
need your scheduled dashboard to update frequently enough. So
frequently.
for those that are unaware, like the scheduled dashboard is cached in Spotfire RAM, and that can be refreshed, like let's say once every hour, once every day, and that allows the report to load super fast. It allows the dashboard to load super fast because it's in RAM. But that refreshing, that when it's stored in RAM, that has to be done frequently enough that when you're writing back to database or writing back to information link, that it's going to be then refreshing your cache. So yes, it will work, but just remember that when you open a new session, all you're seeing is what is in that cache. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I was able to answer that. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. So
All
let's
right.
move on to
Move on.
the next one. So the next one is through store procedure. It's similar to, it's still using information links, but instead of editing, because sometimes we don't have access to editing the SQL. So right now my SQL is untouched, but I have to create a store procedure, and that has many advantages, not only to writing back, but also to bring back data from the database. For example, if your store procedure returns uh, some values, one row or multiple rows, and you make changes in your store procedure, your information link will not be broken. It's not going to break. But if you use an information link that uses column elements, if your column on the database changes the name or something changes in the database, then not only the information link will break, but everything else that do. So there are advantages and disadvantages of you using one method or the other. So in this case, the store procedure is taking two arguments again, the rating and the comments, and is going to return the entire row. And this is a different approach that I'm using, taking advantage that my information link is returning in the row, because now I can append that row to my main database. So this is my rating. This is not the store procedure. So I have an information link called store procedure, SP writeback store procedure, and I'm not doing that because I am adding that store procedure. Well, we go through the parameters like the previous one, and map the inputs again. But here is what I'm talking about. So you have the main table, and then you have your rating right back to using the store procedure, adding those rows to this table. So as long as I refresh this table, the rows from this table, if you will, that returns one row, are going to be added here. So you have to map it properly, and all you have to do is just refresh. So that's another way to write back and then get the results back straight away. So let's do hello stored. Do it for the demo. Give a rating of 4, and boom. Because I didn't refresh the rating before, it didn't go through all these records. But let's do another test, number 2. Click refresh, and here you go. All right. Any more questions before we jump to the using data functions? All right. Let's move on. I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the questions are definitely coming in quickly.
Okay.
We'll get to let's see. We'll take one question and then we'll move on. Probably won't be able to get to all the questions today. Let's see. The consumer access. Someone was asking, Well, Spotfire users have with consumer access and read access, how will database writeback work for that? So I think this involves using the web player and the database writeback on the web player.
Definitely will work if they have consumer access, because you as an author can create all these information links or IronPython with a button and scripting or data functions, and the consumer just runs the analysis and runs the functions or whatever, and is going to be able to write back to the database.
There we go. All right. So now we have the data function approach.
Yes, the data function approach is the same approach as with IronPython by using the system DSN again. So I am using my system DSN, and I am creating, I have to register a data function. In this case, it's going to be R script. I need these two packages, DBI and ODBC. I put them here. If you don't know how to add packages, you go to Tools and then Python tool or TER tools, and then package management, and then you search for the packages that you want to, or you load the packages, and then you will see a bunch of packages here, and then you can search and insert it. But if you check first if you have it already installed, and if not, then search for it, install it, and you're done. So that's all you need to do. It's just it's taking one parameter. It's taking two parameters. Well, three parameters. This is the system date time, one argument for my function that is going to execute this insert statement. I'm passing the three parameters right here. This is an image, so I'm gonna go scroll through the code later on. But yeah, this is what I was talking about, these two packages. And then in your text area, you add a button, click submit, and you link it to your data function. And then you specify your input and output parameters. The input parameters are going to be these two, just like we did last time. And the output is going to be a data table. So that data table is returning that R script is returning all the rows. So this is
maybe you can show that in the data canvas how that's coming through as a data table.
Yes. Let me show you, because now I remember the Python script has. I'm sorry. The R script. The R script is. Where's my R script?
I think you have another scroll.
Oh yeah. I'm scrolling.
Two scrolls.
Yeah. Two scrolls because of the screen resolution. Okay. Yeah, it's in this image. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. Okay, so here I am using the input parameter as a data table, and the output parameter is also a data table. So yes, so that rating, yeah. So let's do a test just to make sure. Hello from our data function, and then submit, and then well, again, I didn't refresh, but it's here. So that's the latest record from the data function.
Okay.
Okay, and for the data function, let's go through the data function, make sure.
It's in data.
Oh yeah, thanks. Data function properties. My R data function looks like this. My input parameters, no, just rating and comments, and the output parameters is let's see how I have it actually mapped by editing the parameters. So rating, okay, comments, document property, both ways, the input and the output. Oh, the output is just the date. Yeah, so let's look at the data canvas, how uh,
The data function. Yeah, you can
yeah,
just you could probably just show the whole script and everything in the data function flyout or
yeah,
the data function canvas. Yep.
right back to that
Yeah, right.
bar.
Yep, there you go. So there's the whole flow. You have the rating and comments, document properties, right? And then
Yeah.
it adds the DT, which is the date.
Hmm. Yeah, the other, I think the data function, the other example with Python, I am using the data table to, I think there was no need to do that on the, I don't know why I am using DT as an output. Maybe I don't need it because all I'm doing is refresh, this one is refreshing as soon as I hit submit.
Okay.
The R data function. Okay. Yeah, you can perform. Oh, I already covered the data functions with Python. Yeah. Okay. Good.
So then you can do the Google Sheets with Python, right?
Yes, the Google Sheet with Python.
So this is so um, you can write to Spotfire with Python, but or you can write to like databases with Python, like SQLite and PostgreSQL. But here, this is an example with just Google Sheets, right?
Exactly. And for the Google Sheets approach, well, first you have to set up Google by creating Google Cloud Console. You create a project, and then you add, um, you enable your APIs. So in this case, you want to enable the Google BigQuery and Google Drive APIs. Google Sheets and Google Drive API, you enable those. And then you um, also create a service account. You create a service account, and then that service account, um you create a credentials. Basically, it's a OAuth 2 credentials. You download the JSON file, and all of you. There's a bunch of process that you have to go, but it's more in details in the article. So you download your JSON file, and then here you have, it's something like this. You're gonna need the email that was generated. This is your service account, the username, and the password is in the entire thing, the entire file. So when you create the Google Sheets, you have to share that to that uh, that service account email. So you go to your sheet, you share, and you make sure that it's an editor. You're this guy. Okay. So let's continue looking at this. For this, we're going to use a Python data function, and you need these packages, the authorization and the gspread. Gspread is a package to make it easy to write back to Google Sheets. You can use different packages, but this one is pretty good. And it's right there. You install it the same way. You define your data function. And one thing I like to do with the data functions is when I register a data function, I just use the packages that I'm going to use, and then I click run. In that moment, the function that you specify here is going to be created in the background. If you keep running this, it's going to create copies and copies. So it's just better to just do a very simple code, then run it. Make sure that you don't have any errors in the notification area, and then you close the analysis. It's going to ask you if you want to save it to the library or not. So I always choose no because I can always save it later. And then I go back to my data function properties and keep editing the script. So when we edit the script, then I can keep doing the rest of the script right here. So just copy paste this, change the client with your credentials from that JSON file that you downloaded on the query, and here you go. You just do the authorization part. You create a connection, then you open a workbook through the connection by specifying the sheet that I have here. It's called where is my? Let me open it. Sheet one. Oh, Spotfire comments. That's the name of the table, if you will. And then you get the work. There's also a way to get the worksheet by specifying the name of the worksheet. In this case, sheet 1, or just 0. And then my sheet just append the rows values. It's an array with the columns that you want to specify. So again, you map your parameters. In this case, to comment and value, and that's it. That's it for now, because we are going to see how this work live on a moment, and I'm going to show you how to read the Google Sheets back also from a data function. So let's do hello Google Sheets, and we'll do a rating of 4 and submit. And it should take a while. You can see it's taking a little bit because it's communicating. But once you have that going, it should go faster.
Well, that's right all the way to Google Sheets and back, right?
Yes, but the first time takes a little bit. I should have do this earlier just to kind of warm up the. Here you go. See, now it wrote back to Google Sheets. And in order to write back to Google Sheets, there's another script. And that script is doing exactly the same. And then you can read, if you want to return it as a JSON, is this line of code. Or if you want to return it as a data frame, then you need pandas, and then convert your array of data with this other line of code, and you can call it output. So I did both here. So when I read the Google Sheets, again, it's loading this. I can run this as well, and see I'm running this two in parallel. It's trying to communicate to Google Sheet, and this is going to update on this way, and this is going to update in a JSON. JSON is useful because a lot of the visualization we use in Mod uses this format. So that's another thing to consider. Maybe there's a use case by using a Google Sheets and then get the data back like this. So I'll pause a little bit before we jump to the writing back to Google BigQuery for questions.
Yeah, just we have just one question here. Actually, a couple questions. Is there any difference in performance when you're doing database write back with the information link versus the IronPython script?
In performance using
yeah, if you're using IronPython
information link or IronPython, that's a good question. I feel IronPython is faster.
Yeah. We haven't done any tests on that. But...
No, we haven't, but I have that feeling. There are pros and cons by using any of those. But it's just a matter. It's a good question. It's
okay. And then there was a question from YouTube. When would you recommend changing the approach of combined software with a web application framework instead of the approaches outlined here? So when would you use a web application framework instead? Well, I think that Spotfire offers a lot of advantages with being able to rapidly design your analysis with visualizations and data functions and mods versus using all from scratch code web application. So I would say, I mean, if there's a certain level of customizability that you need that you're not getting from Spotfire, you might want to consider a web application. But if you're trying to quickly solve business problems and develop like kind of a full-fledged enterprise capable report or analytics application, I would use Spotfire. That's my answer.
Yes, well, remember also that Spotfire is not only a tool, it's a platform. And you can extend the platform by using the SDK. So if you're going to write an application using .NET C#, you can very well use the SDK to create extensions to the Spotfire and build your application with more robust data validation and what have you for that application itself.
Right. That's a good point too. All right. So we have one more example with writing back to BigQuery. Is that right?
Yes, and then we'll open up for questions again.
Okay. And then we'll close out with questions and wrap up for today.
So here is the example to write back to Google BigQuery. Same approach as writing back to Google Sheets. Select a project. You can use the previous project. Then you can also enable the APIs and service. In this case, you need the Google BigQuery API. So this is, you can still use the same service account. Just make sure that you are using you enable that for that account. Then that you download your keys. You can use the same because it's the same authorization token that before. And then you have to create a data set. So in Google, in Google Console, the Google Cloud Platform Console, you go to Google BigQuery and then you create your data set. A data set will contain tables. It's like your schema. And then once you have that enabled, you create a table. So I have my data set here that I created. I create a table. And then I name my table and I defined the comments, my columns, my fields, and the data type, and all those settings. And it's very important to share it with the service account. So that table, you share it with that service account that we created. Make sure that the role is an editor, just as we do it with Google Sheets. And then on the Spotfire side, we'll need the same package, but instead of using that other one to the GSpread, we're going to use the BigQuery package. And the BigQuery package is available again from Python tools, packet management. Again, define a data function. Just use the packages that you're going to be using. Make sure that the packages are properly installed by looking at the notification icon. Don't save it and continue working on your script. It's basically the same thing, but in this case, I am just inserting the rows because everything from here to the rest is the same. Just well, this comment and value I hard coded for testing, but then I mapped my as a parameter for the document properties. And then I just create my insertion. It's a JSON type of insert. And then perform these insert rows in a JSON format. And that should don't show any errors. If there is, you can catch them, because if the errors are empty, then okay, new rows are being added. If not, then you print something else with errors. One quick tip on how to debug these kind of data functions: if you go to tool options and go to data functions, you can enable data debugging, and you will see a blue dot on the notifications area to see this kind of outputs and other information. So let's see how this works. I am going to open the my Google BigQuery. Let's see what I have on the table. I have this, and then hello from hello Google BigQuery. Submit. Taking a little bit of time to execute, but you can continue work on your stuff. You don't have to wait for this. We'll see when that's done, when this thing stops spinning.
While that's spinning, I'll just put this other question on. Dustin was asking, can we share the DXP when done? We think we're in the process of getting the DXP through our legal approval so that we can share it, but all the code is on the page that I shared in the comments. So you should be able to copy this, and then you're really just setting up the document properties, how you want the document properties.
Okay, it's done. Hello from Google BigQuery with a rating of 4. I'm gonna refresh my table, and hello BigQuery. Here it is, rating of 4 right now. And okay, so how to read back from Google BigQuery? That's another topic. So what I did here is add a connection to connect to. I use a Spotfire connection, and I just set up my connection to Google BigQuery, which is right here. Google Big, where is it? It's
you can just search for it at the top sometimes, or there it is.
Oh, sorry. Google.
It's right there at the bottom.
Right here, yeah. Okay, well, I can also check my data canvas. It's Google BigQuery, and this is how it. No, this one. That's the table. That's what we want to look. So yeah, this is a connection. If I configure the connection, I see all my tables and everything that I have that I'm working with, and whatever I want to return. So it's I can refresh the table by Python, or I can just refresh my table. I think just like this. Now it's refreshed. Oh, there it is. Took a while to refresh, but there it is. And that's it.
That's it, huh? All right. Well, we actually got to all the questions today, so really popular session. There was a lot of questions falling through, but we covered how to write back with to Excel files, to Google Sheets, with information links, with data functions, with IronPython, how to write back to Google BigQuery. So a whole wealth of options that you showed there, Jose. So thanks for walking us through that. And again, this page is all of this code is on that community page for people to access, and we'll put that in the video description as well. So, well, thanks for joining us, Jose. Anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
Well, thank you everyone for attending. It was an overwhelming response. I'm glad to see that. We are here every month, the first Tuesday of every month. Is that right, Neil?
That's right, first Tuesday of every month.
And then if you have any questions, you can feel free to go to the TIBCO community and ask questions. The articles are there, and just reach out.
Yeah, that's right. All right, thank you all, and we'll see you next month for our next session. Have a good one. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.